I think when many of us hear about integrity, we think about our morals, something like I'm a person of integrity. When I say I'm going to be there, I'm there. Or if I say something, my behavior follows up. And that's a characteristic and that's important. But there's also emotional integrity. And emotional integrity is different than integrity that you have morally, because I know a lot of people who are very moralistic and have a lot of integrity, but emotionally they don't. Emotional integrity is not something that you're born with. It's something that you can cultivate. Your parents can cultivate it. They cultivate it by being there, by validating feelings, by making you feel that anything you say won't be judged, or that you're not a bad person, or there's not something wrong with you if you feel a certain way. There's a lot of people right now when they come into therapy that I see they struggle with emotional integrity. I think a lot of times these young people were raised by parents who didn't value their feelings, maybe were callous to them and made them feel like some of their feelings were okay and some of them were not. Some of them you could say, some of them you couldn't. And that's unfortunate. So in a way, we would say those people, my clients, were maybe raised by emotionally neglectful parents, or parents that were really good at putting, food on the table and paying the mortgage, but they weren't necessarily there for their child with their emotions and what they were feeling, and validating those thoughts so that the child knew they could be honest. So as a child grows up, which is you now, you grow up with a sense that I could never say that to my mom and dad because they wouldn't understand, or it would hurt them, or they would think I was a terrible person. Then the other thing is some people have like what I call an emotional identity crisis. Like they get so lost in trying to be like other people, whether it's on social media with influencers or just in their daily life. They're so busy people pleasing or wanting to fit in that they lose sight of who they are, and they grow numb about what they feel. They kind of put what they feel second to what this person that they're trying to impress feels or thinks. And that's always a losing game, because you're going to lose yourself. You're going to start feeling really lonely. And because loneliness is so endemic right now, we don't want to contribute to that any. So if you do realize that your relationship lacks emotional integrity because maybe you or your partner don't have it, are you wondering at that point, what are the signs? I'm going to give you some signs to look for. These are what I look for in my practice when a couple comes in, especially if one of the partners says, I just feel kind of blah, kind of numb. I'm going to be looking for these as I evaluate them. The first thing, one of the partners claims they're not angry or hurt when they are. One of the partners often says nothing is wrong when something clearly is wrong. One of the partners tries to hide their mistakes or their weaknesses from another. Once again, they learned this in childhood. One of the partners finds the other one very unpredictable. So this would probably, the partner that would feel that way would say that about his partner who maybe is emotionally not they don't have emotional integrity. In other words, the partner married to them feels like there's loose ends there. One of the partners avoids sharing things so they won't be hurtful to the other person. They're often unaware of their feelings in general. And these people too can feel numb sometimes. Like if you ask them, what are you feeling? They're like, I don't know. I never really thought about it. That's a classic sign of not having emotional integrity. And you find yourself hiding your true feelings about something from your partner. And once again, you learned that because you had emotionally neglectful parents, perhaps, growing up. So what you should do, okay? Painful feelings are temporary. So I'm going to encourage you to go there. I'm going to ask you to start writing down what you feel. I'm going to ask you to start taking a chance with your partner and telling them honestly, you're strong enough. And when you tell them, the result, what they say, might be so much different than what you're expecting, that it's going to help bring you guys together instead of taking you further apart, which a lack of emotional integrity does. Second, if you grew up with emotionally neglectful parents, learn all you can about how it affected you. Do your own research. Start Googling. The emotional skills you missed may be numerous. It may be more than emotional integrity. It may be other things too. A total sense of not really owning how you feel. It may be tied up in your inability to take responsibility for things. If you were raised by someone emotionally neglectful, there were a lot of feelings that were never dealt with that you had. It could be an underlying reason for an addiction you have. I see this a lot with people who are food addicts. Underneath that is a lot of parental emotional neglect. And because they didn't get it, they are missing it. There's a void, and that's what they're trying to fill now as an adult. No one's perfect at this. And because it's a trait that has to be cultivated, I want to remind you there's going to be down times and times that you feel like you're still numb, still emotionally unavailable. But what you don't want to do is not do anything, because then you'll pass this trait on to your children without even thinking about it. So see a counselor and talk about it, because counselors, I know when I get people who suffer from an emotional non-integrity or lacking integrity with their emotions, what usually ends up happening is my validation for them, my understanding when they tell me something sparks their fire, and it gets them going so that they can generalize that into other areas. There's a reason I tell you there's many things that oftentimes when we grow up, we have to go back and reparent for ourselves. This is one of them. A lack of emotional integrity will make your relationship always feel more like roommates rather than really true intimate partners.